everyone, it's Big Al from bigalstech.com. Today I'm going to be going through how to add extra hard drives into your NAS and how to configure RAID so that should one of your hard drives fail, you won't lose all your data off it. The NAS that I'm using myself is a Thecus N4310. At the moment I only have one hard drive installed and set up under JBOD, which is just one hard drive singly, not in any RAID. Problem with this is I have had experience before where my hard drive has failed and I've lost over 2 terabytes of information. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to add in extra hard drives and set up what I think the best RAID for this would be RAID 1, which mirrors across the information from one hard drive to the next one. So what I have done is I've already put in 2 extra hard drives in here. Reason being is I'm going to have to set up the second and third hard drive under RAID 1, because at the moment the first hard drive is just individually there. So I'm going to have to set up RAID 1 on the second and third hard drive and then copy over all the information from the first hard drive onto the second hard drive, which will then automatically mirror onto the third hard drive. We can then use the first hard drive as a backup hard drive. So the first thing to do in the Thecus NAS is to check your hard drives that are installed. You can do this, just go to admin, storage, disk information. The 3 hard drives will show up here. First one being the standalone one, which is working at the moment. The next one in position 2 of the NAS is the new hard drive I've installed. So we can run a smart test on this, just to make that sure the hard drive is. So after you run the test on it, it shows up healthy. So, and the same with the third one. So I've run the test on that already and that's showing up healthy. So that's the 2 hard drives are looking good. So what we do now is we go to the RAID management. Okay, in RAID manager you can see that I've got one healthy 2 terabyte disk installed. At the moment it's not configured for any RAID configuration. It has J under the level, which stands for JBOD, just a bunch of disks, which stands for standalone disks. So it would be like putting 4 2 terabyte disks into the 4 bays. They would combine to make 8 terabytes. Only issue with that is any data fails on any of the hard drives at all. Any of the hard drives fail, you're going to lose data because you're not backing it up or you're no redundancy or anything. So we don't want that. So what we want to do is we want to create a RAID 1. To do this, you go into create. You will now see that your disks show up here. For me, the 2 terabyte disks show up in bay 2 and 3. So these are the 2 new ones I've installed. Click available. Down here it gives you the option, do you want to do JBOD? No, we don't, because if I do JBOD, yes, it'll give me 6 terabytes, but I've got no redundancy or no backup. I also don't want to do RAID. The difference between RAID 0 and RAID 1 is RAID 0 is what they call striping. The data you send to the hard disk, some of it, half of it is put onto hard disk 1, the second half was striped across onto hard disk 2, then it's striped onto hard disk 1 again, 2, it goes back and forward like that with the data on it. It improves performance over JBOD, but it doesn't give you any redundancy at all. There's people out there that can explain RAID a lot better than I can. What we want to do is we want to do RAID 1. RAID 1 difference between RAID 0 is that RAID 1 mirrors all the information from disk 1 onto the next second disk. So all my data is stored on disk 1 and a copy of it is stored on disk 2. So we're going to go next on that. We're going to go RAID 1. Again, this video is, I'll see if I can put a link underneath that explains RAID, how it works. I'm not going to try and explain it here and bore everybody. So we're going RAID 1, we'll go next on that. Just call it RAID 1, just to keep everything. Here you can select this as the master RAID, but I don't want to do that because I have another separate disk already set as the master RAID. Even though it's not running RAID, it's set as the master disk. If I set this as the master RAID, it'll copy all the modules for the NAS, for the Thecus NAS, onto this RAID, and then it'll hide the first RAID. I don't want to do that because I want to copy all the information off the first disk onto the second disk, and then turn the first disk into a backup disk. So I'm not going to select the master RAID disk. If you were setting up the Thecus for the very first time and you wanted to set up RAID 1, yes, select master RAID here, because it'll make your two disks, it'll make that the master RAID disk. I hope that explains it. But so I'm not going to select it this time. I'm not going to encrypt it either, because I read a few things. If you forget the encryption key, you're stuffed. The data, you're not going to get the data off the hard drive, so I'm not going to do that. And the quick RAID option is, they advise to really only select that if your disks are brand new. The two disks I put in are not brand new. I've used them in another NAS, so they have information and data on them that I want to get rid of. So I'm not going to select the quick. If you have two brand new disks with nothing on them, they advise you to select quick RAID, so we're not going to do that. I'm going to click next on this. You only get 64-bit option here, and you don't get any other options, so there's nothing you can really change here. Next on that. This gives you a summary of what you have set. So it just goes through that I've got two disks. I'm setting up RAID 1. Don't want to do quick RAID. Striping across disks, it's not going to happen, so that's disabled. File system is set, and it's not the master RAID, or I don't want encryption. So that's telling me everything that I've set here. Next thing I do is click on submit. So it's just warning me that everything is going to be stopped. So yes, I do. Now this is where I start sweating, because I know that I have 2 terabytes on the original disk that I don't want anything destroyed on it. However, I do need RAID 1 set up. So this is going to go off and set up RAID 1 on the 2 new disks that I put in. Again, this just is telling me that everything is going to be stopped once it starts creating RAID. That's okay. So I'm going to click on finish on that. Okay, so that has come up and telling me that that's formatting this 2 and 3, which is good. So it's formatting, that's okay. So my original disk is there with all my data. So this will take a little while. Okay, so you can see it's gone from formatting to building RAID, which is a good sign. So it's formatted the 2 hard drives, and it is now starting to build the RAID, configure the RAID on the hard drive. So you can see point 1, it's going to take ages to do this, a couple of hours to do it. Okay, so now the RAID, after a few hours, RAID 1 has actually created on 2 and 3.